Hello, today is May 29, 2024. We're going to talk about algebra. In particular, we're going to talking about square root function. What is the square root function? It's something look like this, or a variation of this. For instance, y equal to square root x subtract 1, so on and so forth. And then notice here, if we don't write on anything that implies the number 2. So that's why it's called a square root function. You might also heard of the thing called radical functions. So what is the difference between square root function and a radical function? Radical function is something more general. Like we got a number n right here. N is the integer which is greater than or equal to 2. So in other words, if we have something like that, we will call it radical function instead of square root function, because indeed that's a 3 right here is not square root at all. So with that being said, let's graph the function. I want you to graph this. So again, as normal, we put a table. We say when x equal to 0, when x equal to 0, what is the y? Y would be square root of x, would be square root of 0, would be 0. So it's like that. So what about when x equal to 1? Then y will be equal to square root of x be square root of 1, which is 1. So what about when x equal to 4? When x equal to 4, y equal to square root of x square root of 4, that equals 2. What about when x equal to 9? X equal to 9, y equal to square root of x square root of 9, which is 3. So now we can plot those points. This is x, o, y. When x equal to 0, y equal to 0 is that. When x equal to 1, y also equal to 1 is that. When x equal to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. Y equal to 2, 1, 2. So it's this point. When x equal to 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably right here. Then the y equal to 3. So that would be probably right here. So if we connect all those points together, we'll get right like that. So in general, you compare the set of the x value and their corresponding y value. So when x increase relatively large, like jump from 0 to 1 to 4 to 9, the jump step of the y is relatively small, right? Instead, from 1 to 4, you jump from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3. So the curve is going to be look like that. Okay. So let's change this a little bit. What if I want you to graph y equal to square root x plus 1? 1 is outside of the square root of this. Again, we will give a set of x, y values. The x value, when x value equal to 0, we know this part, the y value is 0. but we have additional 1, so y is 1. So compare 1 and 0 is whatever the y value, we add 1. Similarly, when x equal to 1, square root of x is 1 plus additional 1 is 2. When x equals 4, the square root of x is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then when x equal to 9, the square root of x is 3 plus 1 is 4. So if we plot this again, we will have x equal to 0, y equal to 1 right here. When x equal to 1, y actually equal to 2. It's right here. When x equal to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, y equal to 3, 2, 3. So it's that point. When x equal to 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then y equal to 4. So if we connect all the points, we'll get that graph. Notice if you compare those two graphs, you notice this graph shift up, right? So in other words, you compare this with this, you know, plus 1 suggests the graph shift up. Similarly, if we want to graph that, subtract 1, as you can guess, we are going to shift the whole graph by 1 unit downwards. Okay. And then another thing I want to graph is, what if I graph this, x subtract 1. In this case, the subtract 1 is inside the square root symbol. Then, how do we do it? Again, we put x, y value. When x equal to 1, because we can't start with x equals 0. If x equal to 0, 0 subtract 1 with a negative 1. So based on your understanding right now, the value inside square root cannot be a negative number. Again, when you study more in the future, it turns out that actually is the complex number. But for now, we just think, you know, if you see the square root sign, everything inside here is going to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so x, the minimum x should be started with 1, 1 subtract 1, 0. Take a square root of it, still 0. When x equal to 2, 2 subtract 1 equal to 1. When x equal to 2, y equal to square root subtract 1 equal to 2 subtract 1 equal to square root of 1 equal to 1. Okay, so when x equal to 5, when x equal to 5, then y equal to square root x subtract 1 equal to 5 subtract 1 equal to square root of 4 equal to 2. Okay, so when x equal to 10, when x equal to 10, then y equal to square root of x subtract 1 equal to square root of 10 subtract 1 square root of 9, which is 3. So now let's plot this. Okay. So y, x equal to 1, y equal to 0. X equal to 1, y equal to 0 at that point. X equal to 2, y equal to 1. Right here. When x equal to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Y equal to 2, 1, 2. When x equal to 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Y equal to 3. It's right here. So it's going to be something like that. Okay, notice this graph and this graph right here. This is what we drew before, y equal to square root of x, but this is y subtract square root subtract square root of x subtract 1. Notice is this graph shift 1 unit to the right. You got this, right? In other words, if we have something like that, x subtract a is the positive number, a is a positive number, that means it is the graph of y equal to square root of x shifted to the right. Similarly, if you see something like that, x plus a, right? That means the graph of y equal to x shifted to the left by a unit. So if we ask you to graph y equal to square root plus 1, then you can get roughly idea of the graph look like that. Okay, so the next thing is, what if y equal to x negative x? Let me rewrite it. Y equal to negative square root of x. What does that mean? That means everything we can originally treat like this, right? Whatever the value we get y equal to square root of x, we put a negative sign in front of it, right? So that means our y value is going to be all negative numbers, right? So notice y equal to x is the graph look like that. So y equal to negative x would be a graph like that, which is symmetry to the x-axis, right? And then you can also try something at home for like half of the x, and then also try to graph 2x. So those will help you to quickly graph this. I'm going to repeat this myself. So this is going to be a homework assignment. So you guys take a look at it and then let me know if you have any questions. So that's all I would like to share for today. Thank you again. And then I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.